President Barack Obama at a campaign stop once again, at a campaign office rather, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, swing state, and said this. Let's play a brief clip of what President Barack Obama said.
I start feeling like we don't have enough of a sense of what's at stake here. These aren't ordinary times, and these are not ordinary elections. You're lucky Michelle's not here. She really talking serious about this stuff. So, but here's the good news, right? The good news is that not only as Attorney General and as a senator and as a vice president and now as the nominee for the Democratic Party, Kamala has made us proud. She has been out there. If you doubt that, I hope y'all watched the debate because that wasn't close. That was like Mike Tyson.
Let's bring it down. So he goes on to talk more about her record. And he also said this, too. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. The women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. We get in trouble and the system isn't working for us. They're the ones out there marching and protesting. So, Teddy, there are people accusing President Barack Obama of lecturing, of finger wagging, of talking down to black men. So let me say this. I thought this is what y'all wanted. I keep hearing we got to talk more to black men. So now that President Barack Obama does, the first black man to be president, a black man himself who did very well with the black vote, now that he is talking to black men specifically, because that's what we want, he's finger wagging? I thought we wanted authenticity. I thought we wanted somebody to be real and not talk like they're reading from a teleprompter or a script. And let's add some context here. He was talking to campaign workers, and he was giving them messaging. That's a really important point. He wasn't like in the barbershop. If you look at the video, it literally says, it says like black folks for Harris or black voters for Harris in the background. He was talking to campaign workers, giving them messaging points where if you're out there talking to so-and-so, here's what you could say. And it's very confusing to me that there's people accusing Obama of finger wagging. It's not like he said, if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you're disloyal, like Trump said about Jewish voters. Yeah. It's not like he even said, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, like Biden said, and who apologized within hours after he made that comment, which was wrong. Mm-hmm. Trump has never apologized for his comments about Jewish voters. Mm-hmm. He was talking about, he didn't use the word misogyny, but this line right here, not feeling the idea of having a woman as president, and saying this to campaign workers. Like, what do you, this is what we want. This is what we want. Talk to black men. Let's have somebody out there who can engage black men. And you have President Barack Hussein Obama doing it. And mentioning, and again, not using the words exactly, but hey, there could be a misogyny angle here. And talking to campaign workers. I don't know any other politician in my lifetime who's had better messaging than President Obama. I mean, this is like getting vocal tips from Aretha Franklin. I mean, he ran one of the best campaigns in presidential history and won twice.
Yeah.
So I'm just confused about this narrative that Obama is finger wagging and lecturing when he's talking to campaign workers who were literally volunteering to work for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And people were laughing. He's making jokes. He's being himself. But that is finger wagging. And there's people who I really respect who've been saying this. Now talking down? Huh. As a black man, I didn't feel that way at all. I said, good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear him engaging in this way with campaign workers. Curious to know if you all felt like President Barack Obama was finger wagging or lecturing black men. 866-801-8255. Teddy, you're in Georgia, swing state. I'm from Philly, Pennsylvania, swing state. What are your thoughts about this?
I appreciated the former president, Barack Obama, saying the things that he said. I think what he said was factual. I think what he said was an effort to focus people on the importance of this race, the importance of this election, and how close things are, right? In terms of how this election will likely go. I will say this, I had this conversation yesterday with a friend who is a former Republican, a black guy I know who's a former Republican. He doesn't deal with them anymore. But when we're talking about Biden getting 87% of the black male vote, and for some people, they're like, okay, well, black men are going to Trump, and we hear this narrative. There is no other racial demographic of men who voted in higher numbers for Biden than black men. Not one. 87% of black men voted for Joe Biden. The next closest would be Hispanic men at 57%. That's 30% lower. And so if we're going to have a conversation about what is actually happening, and I get it, people, and I too don't understand the 12% of black men who voted for Trump. I don't get it. But I think this kind of finger pointing and victim blaming or blaming black men, I think, for this is wrongheaded. I think President Obama was right in what he said. I think it's important to again highlight what he said, and I think to the point you make that he was talking.
But what can we add? He wasn't blaming. He was literally engaging. Just putting that out there.
Exactly right.
He wasn't doing that.
He's not blaming anybody. He's saying this is a very important election, and we need everybody to show up. We have a credible candidate. We have a candidate who is competent. We have a candidate who is working. We have a candidate who has ideas. We have a candidate who has empathy. We have a candidate who has experience, and we need y'all to show up and vote. And I think that his point was to really stress the importance of the election. To your point, not blaming anybody. He's encouraging people to show up and vote. But what I'm saying is that when people are having these conversations, people who are looking at him saying, oh, he's finger pointing and he's talking down and he's doing this. I mean, I don't know what they want either, right? Because if he had said, if Kamala loses this race, it's because of black men, then he'd be blaming. That would be different. But that's not what he said.
Exactly. That's not what he said at all. And he would never say something like that. He would never say that.
He wouldn't. So I think that, I don't know, people just like to be upset, I think, at some point about stuff. But again, the vast majority of black men are supporting the Democratic nominee, Vice President Kamala Harris. And I think
but here's what I like, Teddy, is that Vice President Kamala Harris has said, she said, I have to work for the black vote, the black male vote. I don't assume it's in my pocket. She said that.
And I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am black.
She has said that, and she has policies that would obviously impact black men, like starting a small business, having a higher loan when it comes to the SBA, I mean, she has
Buying
policies.
buying a house.
Buying a house, a first-time home buyer, right?
Yeah,
That would obviously, buying a home is obviously a gateway to the middle class. But I see President Barack Obama talking to campaign workers,
yeah,
giving them messaging points.
yeah.
I see that as engaging.
I just don't like that when we're having this conversation, the only men who seem to be implicated as sexist or misogynistic is black men.
Right,
We're talking about, the more than 50% of white men who will likely
right.
not support Kamala Harris.
Well, listen, I've been saying, Teddy, I agree with you, and I've been saying it constantly.
Yeah.
I've been saying it constantly. This happened in 2016 and 2020, and that's why I started with it always proves to not be true. Then there's this weird, but what scares me about it is that kind of media hysteria and polling hysteria that has a mind trick on people. Well, maybe it is kind of true. Maybe it is. Then when we have certain celebrities and uninformed rappers and certain pop stars spreading misinformation, putting it on social media, certain comedians, then what happens is I get afraid that the lie will eventually manifest,
Mm-hmm.
right? The misinformation will eventually manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe it won't be, 8%. It'll be 10% because every vote is so crucial in Atlanta, in Detroit, in Philadelphia, in Milwaukee. Every vote is so crucial. So I try to remind people this is just not. I mean, I remember in 2020 they were saying Trump was going to get like 25% of the black vote, and then remember the hysteria around Stacey Abrams.
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams, who was running for governor in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
released a full agenda for black men.
Yep.
She was courting, and so what I don't want to see is a Stacey Abrams Brian Kemp situation. What I don't want to see is a Hillary Clinton Donald Trump situation.
Right.
I don't want to see Vice President Kamala Harris get done over like those two qualified women. Stacey Abrams should have won. And let's be clear, there's misogyny in every community, and there's misogyny in our community as well. Why did Stacey Abrams lose when her and Senator Warnock were on the same ticket? So there's some valid critiques and valid discussions to have there. I don't agree with the idea of blaming black men, but I love the idea, like what President Barack Obama did. Let's have a conversation and let's point out. I mean, he listed her policy points, and he didn't say vote for her because she's black.
Right. Right.
But now President Barack Obama is being criticized for pandering and finger wagging. What can you do?
I will say that I think that while the margins between black men and black women are very small, I do think that we see there are some reasons for that, and I think I was watching Trevor Noah on The View yesterday and talking about who gets it the worst in terms of bad policy, and that is going to be black women. And so I think they are a little bit more focused, a little bit more centered on like, okay, is this policy going to work for me? Is it because if it works for me, it's going to work for everybody. And I think that, again, while we have to have the conversation with everybody, because we want every demographic to feel like they're represented, every demographic to feel like they've been seen, whether that's black men, black women, white women, white men, queer people, disabled people, Latin people, like whoever. And I think that what's also frustrating for me is that I feel like the vice president and her team are being very intentional about that. Doing a town hall on Univision last night, which was really moving, some of the things that she discussed with people who were pouring their hearts out. Talking to Charlemagne on the Breakfast Club, again, I wouldn't, but I get why they got to do it. But they're being intentional, doing all the smoke, right? Which is hopefully they trying to, that's a demo that's an audience rather of black men, probably largely. Doing Howard Stern. I mean, they're leaving no stone unturned here. They're trying to do everything they can to reach everybody because the policies she's putting forward are good for everybody. They're good for everybody in the country. And so I think we have to really keep pushing hard to just make sure people are aware, make sure people have the right information, and make sure they're informed. That's all you can really do. But this idea that Barack Obama was, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. I think it's
And a
ridiculous.
lot of people, are saying it. And I think what's so unfortunate to me, I predicted this when Vice President Kamala Harris became the nominee,
Mhm.
and everybody was so excited. And I said, beware, they're going to turn on her at some point. She's going to make mistakes. She's
Mhm.
not going to get every interview right. She's not going to get every soundbite right. And they're going to turn on her. And so you're seeing that. That's what's happening now. When the bar is so low for him and the bar is so high for her or for Democrats at large, but
I
there's no space for Vice President Kamala Harris to be imperfect.
no.
This guy just made insulting comments about Detroit yesterday, Donald Trump.
In Detroit.
In Detroit, we're all going to be living like Detroit. Detroit does not have the highest crime rate in the country,
Right.
right? It's just what. When has Donald Trump sat down with the Breakfast Club? Never. But I'm sure people are going to be analyzing and chopping up her interview or her sit down with Charlemagne in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
Could Donald Trump do a town hall with Univision? I saw some folks complaining, oh, she wasn't answering the questions. She was talking in circles. I'm sorry, I gotta judge the race by who's competing. One person did do Univision, one person didn't. So at this point, she doing good by me. One person has the former president of the United States talking to campaign workers in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
And the other person does not have one former president of the United States, including his own vice president, endorsing them for president. I'm telling y'all, I'm getting Hillary Clinton deja vu vibes.
Mhm.
It's making me very uncomfortable. And now President Barack Obama is the enemy because he was finger wagging. But y'all keep telling me, be authentic, be real, talk from your heart. The brother does that.
And there's a problem.
Campaign workers are in the room talking to, I want to stress that it was to campaign workers. It wasn't even during a speech.
Yeah.
If Leontine Price tells you you're not singing in tune, you're gonna listen and you're gonna take the tips from Leontine Price. You're
That's
a great singer, Teddy. If Leontine Price came to you and said, listen,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you how to fix this. Let me give you some tips what you could do. You're going to be like, "Yes, I'm going to listen."
Exactly right. Exactly right.
And Obama is the Leontine Price of politics.
Yes.
2-term president.
Yep.
Cleaned up the economy, saved the auto industry.
Yep. Bill at the banks.